The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
The Dave Hooker Show. A presentation of Off the Hook Sports. Objective insight, expertise, top guests. Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free. Also available on offthehooksports.com.
I compute and obey.
Now to Dave Hooker.
Ready.
That was some sort of weekend, wasn't it? Tennessee's nemesis in the NCAA tournament continues to advance, could win a national championship. Tennessee finds a women's basketball coach, and John Calipari says to Kentucky basketball fans, just stick it. And what, if you're just tuning in, may be a bit of a surprise because it happened late Sunday. We're going to dive right in, literally, to Tennessee's hired on the coaching side with a women's basketball coach. 4 Downs brought to you by Dynasty Pools and Spas. But first, if I was asked Caleb Calhoun how he's doing, and for 30 seconds on John Calipari bolting Kentucky for Memphis, what would you say? Wow.
No, Kentucky for Arkansas.
Kentucky for Arkansas. Excuse me. He previously bolted Memphis for Kentucky. My apologies.
Yes, this strikes me as a giant middle finger to Kentucky fans. Saying, you guys didn't want me, I'm out. But honestly, for Kentucky fans, it's like, don't let the door hit you on the way out. It's they're willing to pack. They'll probably pack up his truck for him.
I believe his mind was made up 2 years ago when he was at a late home game at his place in Rupp, and people were holding up the sign saying "Fire Calipari," and they had bags over their heads. I think his decision was made then, but it's interesting. It makes the SEC, I think, more winnable if there was an East, which there's really not anymore. So anyway, what does it do for Tennessee? We shall discuss. First, though, 4 Downs. Tennessee has a basketball coach on the women's side, and Caleb Calhoun is incredibly high on this young lady. We'll tell you why now. 4 Downs brought to you by Dynasty Pools and Spas.
4 Downs brought to you by Dynasty Spas, the most comfortable spas made in the United States of America, right here in East Tennessee. Drop in for the all-new showroom in Athens. Dynasty Spas, perfect for all 4 seasons. 4 Downs, presented by Off the Hook Sports.
All right, so here we go, and you can vote if you would like to online. It'll be today's tough question. Their decision to hire Kim Caldwell by Tennessee's athletic department was a great hire or a money-saving move. But first, let's get to some of the specifics that you might not know about Kim Caldwell. What do we do, Coop, before we hop in the hot tub?
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
I love it. All right. What down, Coop?
Coop here. First down.
All right. First down. Here we go. Caleb Calhoun, you were all on top of this on Sunday. And so you know as much about Kim Caldwell as I think Kim Caldwell's mom. She spent almost her entire career in West Virginia. That is first down, Coop.
Coop here. First down.
So did Nick Saban. So what does that mean for Kim Caldwell? Caleb?
Well, obviously, she's the next Nick Saban.
No
So, yeah, she's from Parkersburg, West Virginia. Went to school at Glenville State from 2007 to 2011, which is also in West Virginia. Then she was an assistant at Ohio Valley from 2011 to 2013, also in West Virginia. First head coaching job, Glenville State, 2016 to 2023. She was there, also in West Virginia again. And then this past year was at Marshall, which is also in West Virginia. The sole exception was from 2013 to 2016, she was in Sacramento State as an assistant. So total 180, an assistant in almost her whole career in West Virginia, except for a 4-year period where she was in Northern California.
I have to be honest. I thought this, when we talked a lot yesterday, was a bit of a for her. But I've been told that she came in with the right attitude at the hiring process and said, I want to be made better at the administrative things and things I'm not better at. So she's been a head coach. She has experience doing those sorts of things, but doing it at this level is a totally different sort of thing. What down, Coop?
Cooper Mays here. Second down.
All right, second down. Dynasty Pools and Spas in Athens. Their showroom is there for you. It's fantastic. An up-tempo coaching style. That's way different than what Tennessee has done previously under Pat Summitt, is it not?
A complete departure from the Pat Summitt era at Tennessee, which was always about defense and rebounding. She is all up tempo. They led Marshall this past year, led the nation in 3-point attempts, was third in 3-pointers made, and was top 5 in steals. So you're going to see a lot of up and down running. They were fourth in scoring at over 85 points a game. The question I have, I'm not so sure the women's game has evolved to the point where that translates to championships yet, because all the talk about Iowa and Caitlin Clark and everything like that, and what happened when Iowa played South Carolina, they couldn't buy a rebound, which is why South Carolina beat them, because South Carolina and Dawn Staley were still about defense and rebounding, and that's how they won another national title. So I think it's evolving. I think it may be changing. Maybe she's coming in at the right time as it's going to change, but I don't know if it's fully hit that stride yet.
Yeah.
But
well, you don't want to be on the Steph Curry train 10 years before the Steph Curry train.
Maybe it's
You know what I'm
5 years.
saying?
Though.
I mean,
Yeah.
maybe if you're a couple of years ahead of it, that's cool. But if you're 8 to 10 years ahead of it, that ain't good, right?
Right. Exactly. So maybe they're 3 to 4 years. Caitlin Clark's going to change it a lot for a lot of other schools in the future. So maybe 3 to 4. But I'm not sure if it's there yet. Now, again, I say that Gino Auriemma built a dynasty with just a bunch of elite guards for years dominating. So, it could go that way, but we'll just have to see how it's going to play out.
Okay. What else you need to know about her? And by the way, you can vote right now on our YouTube page. Is this a great hire, a money-saving move? 76% right now say great hire. What down, Coop?
Tennessee center Cooper Mays here. Third down.
All right. Thank you, Coop. Young. She is young. I mean, she could almost be my daughter, which is crazy. Tennessee goes from having coaches in their 40s, 50s, and 60s to now she is what, Caleb?
She is 34.
Wow.
Younger than me. Got married just last year. Her original surname is Kim Stevens. Yes, she is a very, very young prospect, a very young coaching prospect. I think, Danny White, this is a focus on trying to keep the Tennessee Lady Vols up with the times, honestly. I think there are some issues that people think that Tennessee has been stuck in their ways for too long. So I think this was a move to try to address that. And I think that was a big focus of his. And so I think her age was actually a factor. She's still older than Lane Kiffin was when Tennessee hired Lane Kiffin, though, in 2008.
Yes, I know that because I was the exact same age. So welcome to the club. It's very sobering. I'll go ahead and warn you of that. When you start getting older than the coaches you cover, hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't done that yet. And why Tennessee hired her. She is a proven winner. But did the Vols save money? They saved a ton. 4 Downs brought to you by Dynasty Pools and Spas. You can have your spa delivered 125 miles within that fantastic showroom downtown. Mention Off the Hook Sports gets $500 off. Why Tennessee ultimately hired their new women's basketball coach in 60 seconds. Off the Hook Sports. Here, the best thing about Dynasty Pools and Spas is that they've got it all taken care of. What does that mean? Well, you stop by their showroom and check out their fantastic selection of top-notch spas in that showroom in Athens. Make your pick and get ready, because Dynasty Pools and Spas delivers within 125 miles of that location in Athens, that fantastic showroom. They've got the cover lift, steps, chemicals, and everything you need. Delivery at no extra charge. They're just down the road in Athens. You pick the spa you want, and it'll be there for you. Oftentimes discounted with military and first responders discounts. Also blemish models, or just mention Off the Hook Sports. That's Off the Hook Sports for $500 off. There's a discount for you on spas made right here in East Tennessee. Support local. Dynasty Pools and Spas also has the best chemicals for you and your spa and your pool. No fillers, just the chemicals made right here in East Tennessee. Support local. Dynasty Pools and Spas, $500 off if you mention Off the Hook Sports. $500 off if you mention Off the Hook Sports. Dynasty Pools and Spas, dynastypoolsandspas.com.
All SEC center Cooper Mays here. 4th down.
All right. So, Caleb, what has this young lady, Kim Caldwell, done to be deserved of heading up one of the most tradition-laden college athletic programs. I was going to say women's. Take that out. College athletic programs in the nation. What has she done to this point? Pretty good run at Marshall last year, but before that, she's had success as well.
Yes, she spent 6 years at Glenville State. 7 years, excuse me. Went 191 and 24. She made the NCAA tournament every year at the Division II level down there. And her last 2 years, she won the Division II national title and made the Final Four in a separate year. She took over a team that had won 17 games in 2015, 2016. Then in Marshall was 17 and 14 before she took over. Then they went to 26 and 7, won the Sun Belt. She has won her conference regular season title every year but 1 year that she has been a head coach. And this is a big part of the Danny White philosophy, which is Danny White likes hires, and this is very similar to Josh Heupel. He likes coaches that win early and generate excitement with splashes. And this is not the type of coach that you hire and think, 3 years down the road, they'll have a national title team. No, this is, he wants to win right now.
Okay.
And
may I say, I think you've painted yourself in the corner a little bit. Okay. Because her age and a major rebuilding project, which I believe this is, because it wouldn't have been when Tennessee hired Holly Warlick. It wouldn't have been when Tennessee hired Kelly Harper. But now suddenly they're in a day and age where the complete sport, and as every sport in college athletics, has changed. So I think you're thinking of this as being a bit of a rebuilding hire more than you might consider it based off a team that made the NCAA tournament, which they did. And you're telling me, though, that this is part of a youth movement. So kind of job with me those two things. If you
no,
can,
it's part of a Danny White.
Go ahead.
It's part of a Danny White philosophy. Danny White likes to hire coaches that within their first year that they're the right person for the job, not 3 years down the road. And he likes them to make an early splash their first year.
Okay, I want to follow up on that. You can't make a guarantee that you're going to win 10 games in your first year in football or 28 your first year in basketball. So what's that guarantee? I mean, what does that consist?
Okay, so
of?
with Josh Heupel,
how do you enact that?
So Josh Heupel going 7-6, you knew then he was the right person for the job because that team should have gone 4-8. That team should have gone 4-8 or 3-9. And Josh Heupel.
So you're saying that's what I'm asking. So you're saying on the field?
Yes, on the field, on the court. It's one that it's not like Derek Dooley or of, you hope they're good in 3 years. So he wants you to know that they're going to be good the first year they take over. I don't think she's going to win a national championship next year, but I think she's going to immediately have Tennessee better than they were this past year under Kelly Harper. And I think that was a big focus of Danny White's. That always has been. And when you make that early splash, it helps you become a good recruiter because people question, can you recruit? Well, if you make an early splash, you get the credibility at a school like Tennessee. That recruits itself.
Very true. Good point. I can't argue with that. I just didn't know if you meant talk to the boosters and make sure everybody's copacetic and everybody's getting along well in the athletic department. I mean, that is a part of it. And I'm not comparing the two hires, but let's be honest. Anybody that's been around the coaching community, we all knew that Greg Schiano was going to enter the building as his own man. He was going to do what he wanted to do. It didn't matter what anybody else wanted, aside from what may or may not have happened at Penn State. That's part of the reason that I thought all of that gained momentum. But what I was told about Kim Caldwell is that while she realizes this is a rebuilding project, she has gone to different people. And as part of the interviewing process, she told people, she said, there are things I need to learn about running a major organization of this type. I think that's a heck of a good sign. In other words, you're not a former Lady Vol in that you hold the program up to this incredible height that you're never going to reach. And I think Holly Warlick and Kelly Harper did that. But you respect it, and you respect the heck out of getting this job. You don't have to be former Lady Vol to do that. And ultimately, that'll be my takeaway, is I'm glad they didn't feel beholden to do that with a Kara Lawson or somebody else that I may not be aware of.
No, I totally agree. I mean, that's like, you don't have to be a former coach at any school to appreciate the greatness and the status of that program. I don't think Kalen DeBoer had to ever be at Alabama to understand the importance of the history of Alabama football.
You don't think there was ever a conversation like, okay, we just want to let you know we've won a lot recently.
And he's like, "Oh, did you?" No, okay, yeah, I think Kalen DeBoer knew that.
I'd nerd.
Yeah, no, I think it's totally. I think if you're a women's basketball coach, you know the Lady Vol brand. You don't have to have played for them. So I don't think you need to know that as well. You just need to be able to coach. And I think Tennessee got a good coach in this.
Okay, now we're going to discuss here. We're going to get into this now because we've had the feel goods here. We've had why she's such a good hire, this Chambers, but there's more to it than just that. As we know, Quality Tire Pro, the Eberle family has been serving the Chattanooga community since 1957. All major brands of tires, full service automotive, brake alignments, oil changes, and more. All work is covered by nationwide warranty. Cherokee Blvd or online at qualitytirepros.com, qualitytirepros.com. Stop by. Say, hey, Bo. Off the Hook Sports says hello. Hey, Bo. Off the Hook Sports says hello. It is time for today's tough question. And today's tough question today is brought to you by our good friends at the Hemp House.
Today's tough question. Take a side. Take a stand. The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of offthehooksports.com.
You can vote on the message board, the YouTube page, I should say. Tennessee hires Kim Caldwell. Was that a hire that was A, a great hire, B, a money-saving hire? Now, Caleb, you're going to argue both, and I can appreciate that and respect that. But I'm going to ask you to choose between one or the other initially. I'm going to say this is a money-saving move. Do you agree or disagree with that? And how vociferously do you agree or disagree?
I think Danny White, if he had to choose between the two, he would have gone for the great hire move. I disagree with you, Dave. But I think he did prioritize money saving, and I think that was important, and he was able to pull that off.
Wait, do you mean he would have gotten the Gottlieb from Southern California if he could afford her? Do you think some people told him no? You lost me a little there.
No. I think that he was going to sacrifice if he was told you have to choose between saving money or making a great hire. Like you have to, if you save money, you have to make a really terrible hire. He would have gone for the great hire. But I think he was able to find a good hire on the cheap. And so I think it was both. But I think if given the choice, which is to say, if you have to, by saving money, he wasn't going to get a good hire, I think he would have then gone for the great hire and opened up the checkbook a little more.
Okay, so you have to give Gottlieb $4 million or you give the middle school coach down the road $50,000.
Then he would do the $4 million for Gottlieb.
Okay, all right. So great hire winning right now, 82%. I think it's a money-saving move. Can I throw this out there for you? And no, I haven't been hanging out at the Hemp House, but you should. Hemp House online. When it comes to the Hemp House, their premier dispensary online with a wide variety, great selection, and strict standards. They ensure you only receive the best in CBD or Delta products. Go to hemphousechatwith2ts.com, hemphousechatwith2ts.com, or use the promo code HOOKED for 10% off. May I offer you this? Despite the recent ascension of women's basketball, what if baseball is bigger than women's basketball in 4 or 5 years? What if it's comparable now, which I'm not saying it is, but I wouldn't mind running some TV numbers on that. What if Danny White says to himself, I'm better off investing money in not only keeping this Tony Vitello guy, but expanding this stadium because it can be as big or bigger than women's basketball? First, is that a crazy notion to throw out there for any college athletic department? Second, is it a crazy notion given that this is Tennessee and not just an average women's athletic department? Thoughts?
I think that's not crazy, but because there is some connections there in terms of the interest in baseball versus women's basketball. But do you go by ratings or do you go by coverage? Because I think women's basketball is covered a lot more than is reflected in the ratings. I will say that ESPN talks women's basketball all the time.
Okay, but can I make when devil's advocate? We've looked at our analytics, and you guys have absolutely gravitated, and thank you for doing so, to Lady Vols coverage and the fact that there was a coaching change. So we assign the coverage based off what you have the most interest in, right?
Well, isn't there also there's a difference between what people talk about sometimes in sports and what people watch. I think there's sometimes a difference in that. And I think women's basketball
everybody wants to have a vote in who the Lady Vol coach might be, but they might not be watching the Vanderbilt game in mid-Feb.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So in that, baseball may draw more because there's just a lot of fun in going to a baseball game, even college baseball. But I would say that you spend more in women's basketball because the visibility of women's basketball makes your program more visible, and you've got to be upfront with that. And so I think that, I think the women's basketball program, I think the spending has to be there more for women's basketball because that's what ESPN is going to talk about all day. That's what FS1 is going to talk about all day. That's what's going to draw eyeballs on YouTube. So that's going to make your program more visible as an athletic department as a whole, which does matter.
Okay. Do you care if Tennessee is this is purely a heart question, not a mind question. Do you care if Tennessee is known, and I'm talking to the message board too, I want your thoughts on this. Do you care if Tennessee is known as a baseball school more than a women's basketball school, say LSU before they hired Kim Mulkey? They were known more of a baseball school. South Carolina before they hired Dawn Staley. I mean, they were known as baseball schools first, and then the women's aspect of it has come along in the past decade or so years, less than that for Mulkey. Do you think that Tennessee fans would care if they were viewed that way?
I think they might watch baseball more, but they want to be a women's basketball school more. There's too much pride there. Like I've talked about the history of Title IX, the history of women's basketball at Tennessee, the history of what it meant for Tennessee to embrace women's sports. Guys, Tennessee had high school basketball for girls in the 50s before it was ever a thing anywhere else. I mean, this is a state and a school that takes a lot of pride in that. And it has actually built up their fan base to a certain degree. I mean, let's think about this. Maybe Tennessee has a lot of football fans because of people who appreciated the women's basketball program and they gravitated to the university as a whole. So, I mean, I think because of that, it's got to be women's basketball.
Okay. I'm going to challenge that in a second. I'll remind you, BetUS, you can deposit in there 125% of your bonus. That's right. You make a deposit, you get 125% of it 3 times over, plus 10% gamblers insurance. I think this might be a baseball first school. I don't think that's the end of the world. It's 15 seconds.
America's favorite sportsbook and casino. Live betting and racebook. We're celebrating 30 years with a historic offer. A 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits. Plus 10% gambler's insurance. Get started today. BetUS, where the game begins.
Caleb, you're paying the Lady Vols coach $750,000. Is it outside the realm of possibility that Danny White views this athletic department just like I laid it out, and that is an athletic department that is more baseball centric than women's basketball centric? Not what you think, but what do you think he's thinking right now?
Yeah, from a business perspective, the baseball program, I think, does actually bring in a little more revenue than the women's basketball program. I do think that. But at the same time, I don't think that means he's going to toss a women's basketball program to the side. He did a win-win. He got a cheap hire with a very, very positive up-and-comer.
He did get a cheap hire, but in and of itself, to $750,000 seem like a very minuscule number to pay what is essentially 2 times removed Pat Summitt's replacement. Doesn't that seem low to you, or is that just me?
No, it does seem pretty low, but I think that's I mean, I'm not denying that's why he made that hire. I'm not denying it at all, but I mean, here's the thing. Josh Heupel was kind of on the cheap when Danny White hired him too, relative to other football coaches. So
I actually wanted to ask you that. How would you, other than the big splash thing, I think it is similar because he had only been at UCF for what, 4 years?
3.
3 years. And I mean, how would you compare that splash to this splash?
I think this is more of a splash. Funny enough, people were really upset about the Josh Heupel hire. People thought he just inherited a program from Scott Frost and that he was slowly declining. There was a lot of anger at the Josh Heupel hire. This is a bigger splash, honestly, than that one. I think people are more excited about the Caldwell hire. I also think there's just more faith in Danny White this time around because of his track record and what he did with Josh Heupel. So I think people who may not have wanted her have said, well, I didn't want her, but Danny White wanted her, and I trust Danny White because he's the best hirer in the business. I think that's how that went.
We'll ask this question tomorrow, too. How many Lady Vol fans are just out because it's not Summit anymore? Can we get into that tomorrow a little bit? Because I think that is something that needs to be discussed. If you were a Pat Summit fan and not a women's basketball fan, not necessarily a Lady Vols fan, that's fine. Just be honest about it. If you're not going to show up because Pat Summit was treated wrongly, and I believe she was at the end, despite it was outside of her faculties to make the correct decision, then just don't like her because of that. But you're telling me you've got a younger coach who runs an up and down, exciting style. If you don't like this hire because she's not getting paid enough, well, who in the world makes that complaint? Who buys a car and says, yeah, I love that car. It's just I didn't pay enough for it. So
yeah, no, I totally agree.
I mean, come on. I mean, see what she is in 2 or 3 years and judge her. I think it's probably on the cheap, and that's his grand plan in 5 years to be known as a baseball school. I don't think that Danny White has ties to Tennessee, and he sees the importance of women's basketball like you and I do. But I could be wrong. And I don't think it – go ahead.
I disagree. I think Danny White's had his finger on the pulse of Tennessee for a while now. He got a lot of things right, understanding the history of the football program and stuff like that. I think he knew what he was doing. He understands from a business side that you got to be a little cheap, but he also understands the value of the Lady Vols. He actually had his cake and ate it too here. So, I mean, that he's one athletic director who can pull that off.
Still tell you, though, if it's in the back of his mind that you're better off having a left offensive guard than a women's basketball coach, he's going to lean in that direction. Would you disagree with that?
No, but who wouldn't? Tennessee's a football school first.
Exactly right. Maybe UConn is the only place that you wouldn't do that. All right. It's time for a big sack of what the H, because I got to be honest with you. In these news cycles nowadays, I don't know how often Caleb Calhoun wakes up and sees something he didn't see from the night before, but I did, and it was all slick back and looking smooth. His name's John, and he's rolling out to Arkansas.
What the? What was he thinking?
Release the hounds.
The Dave Hooker Show.
Keep cool.
A presentation of OffTheHookSports.com.
John Calipari going to Arkansas is smart or slimy? What say you, Caleb Calhoun?
It's smart. I mean, it's smart because you know that given his buyout, Arkansas probably opened up the checkbook to get him. And quite honestly, the pressure won't be there the same level it is at Kentucky, even though Arkansas has a good basketball history. Arkansas wins titles usually by recruiting Memphis kids, and Calipari already has a lot of connections there. Mm-hmm. So I think this is actually very smart by Calipari, and he'll be appreciated more there. Kentucky, I can't call it slime because Kentucky wanted him gone anyway. So I think all around it was smart, and it's a win-win for everybody involved except for the other SEC schools who may lose their coach, which we'll get to in a little while. But yeah, I think it was smart.
Okay, I'm going to adapt a little bit. I'm going to say John Calipari's move to Arkansas is smart and savvy, and then John Calipari's move to Arkansas is slimy and scared. Because I think there is a little bit of fear factor that goes into this. The fact that those terrible Kentucky fans are so hard on me, and they're wearing bags over their faces, and they're holding up signs that I shouldn't be their coach, and it hurts my feelings. I think it's a sign of a guy who's ready to throw in the towel and give up. And at 65, if I'm Arkansas, that would concern me. I mean, is he still as driven as he used to be? Was he ever incredibly driven because of his relationship with Nike that made his job so much easier. Trust me, and Caleb, you have too. You've been in jobs where you have a good relationship with the right person in the business, and it makes your job that much easier. Calipari's been in that situation. The other question I have for Calipari, Caleb, you and I discussed this last week. Is he willing to go and chuck at least the majority of one and done? Is he willing to say, I'm going to build this program like he built Memphis with Derrick Rose? And correct me if I'm wrong, because you know about them more than I do. But that was a program that was built on solid players and had one superstar one and done. Does he go back to that model, which he got away from at Kentucky? Does he really change anything, or is he playing out the string like Rick Pitino, his mentor, is? What do you think?
Oh, he's playing out the string. He's collecting a check.
Oh, that setup, and you took the easy out.
He did. He is, though. But he's good. But again, he never really had to work hard coaching anyway. All he does is use his AAU connections to recruit, get top 5 talent, then roll the ball out and let him play and then collect that check. That's all he's ever done. So right. I don't know if it'll be the same because Kentucky's not Arkansas is not Kentucky. So maybe he'll get 2 one-and-dones instead of 5 in a starting lineup every year. But yeah, no, he's still collecting a check. It's John Calipari. Okay, guys, it's the best. He is the smartest PR person that I've ever seen in the way he plays to the media, because he makes it sound like he comes across like he knows more than you about everything when he talks to you, but he doesn't. And he's very skilled at that. Almost like a Derek Dooley style, but if Derek Dooley could win.
And recruit at an incredibly high, crazy level. That would be him. I thought it was very odd, the timing of it. And he talked the ultimate finger up to Kentucky. It definitely was. And I just go back to when that hiring was made from the University of Memphis. Didn't you think it was going to end this exact way? That he would just bolt at some point because he wouldn't feel as appreciated? I mean, the chances of him going and winning 3 or 4 titles, which it would have taken at least 2 to make Kentucky fans happy, was a possibility. The chances of him winning no titles, I didn't think was really a possibility, but the chances of him being underappreciated, a la Steve Spurrier back in 2001, was how I saw this thing ending the entire time.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. That's I won't pretend that I saw this ending. I mean, that's a good call by you that you saw that. I wasn't. He had issues in coaching, and I saw him at Memphis. I mean, that national title game with Derrick Rose that they lost to Kansas was all because Calipari did the worst coaching job during the final 2 minutes of that game.
Oh yeah, he should have tackled the Kansas guy. Yeah,
he should exactly. He should have tackled Mario Chalmers. So with that in mind, I think Calipari has. I didn't see this. I wasn't sure if he would win a national title, but I'm not shocked that he did. I honestly thought he would win 2 or 3 after he won the first one. I thought more was coming after Anthony Davis. So I didn't fully see it ending this way. I don't know if he considers his tenure at Kentucky a disappointment. I don't know if Kentucky fans consider his tenure a disappointment. That's kind of debatable. I mean, sometimes someone's so successful and you do wonder.
I'm curious. If you be a Kentucky fan right now, would you be disappointed if you went and hired John Calipari and he brought you 1 title in 10 years?
15. Yes, I would be totally disappointed because of the recruiting he got. Absolutely.
Yeah, I wouldn't be okay with any of that. It's not called signing day madness. It's called March Madness. I don't care who you signed.
No, I totally agree. And he didn't deliver. Now, it's funny you brought up Steve Spurrier because Steve Spurrier also only won 1 national title at Florida, and he would not have won that national title had the BCS existed in 96. That's kind of a funny fact about Spurrier in Florida. But the difference is Spurrier took over a Florida team that had never won anything, whereas Kentucky has standards. However, guys, no coach in the post-Adolph Rupp era of Kentucky has won more than 1 national title at Kentucky. Now, yes, Rick Pitino would have won another one had he stayed. That team Tubby Smith won it with. That was mostly Rick Pitino's team. But Rick Pitino has one. I forget who won it with Kentucky in 77, 78. I'm already forgetting the name. You know the name. And then John Calipari has one and Tubby Smith have one. 4 different coaches have national titles at Kentucky post-Adolph Rupp. None more than 1.
Wait, who did you say again? And I can catch
Rick Pitino, Tubby Smith, John Calipari, and the coach in the 70s, and I'm drawing a total blank. Was it Eddie Sutton or was it before Eddie Sutton? I think it was before Eddie Sutton. might be it. Oh my gosh.
Well, let me ask
Joe.
you this.
Yes, Joby Hall. Joby Hall.
Yeah.
Yes.
Does Calipari make this move if Eric Musselman doesn't get the surprise offer from Southern California and the surprise move? I mean, that because it's not two SEC schools, that's not as newsy and sexy, salacious wise, but it was a pretty big deal for him to go from Arkansas to Southern California. Is Calipari putting out these feelers anyway? Is he going to try to go somewhere even without Musselman moving?
I don't think so. I think Arkansas made the offer. I think this was Arkansas making the offer.
I think he would next year, but I think it kind of just fell into place this year.
Yeah, I totally agree. No, this was totally Arkansas making I think, an advisable offer. But, Arkansas has been chasing the ghost of Nolan Richardson, even though Nolan Richardson is alive. But they've been chasing his ghost for 20 years because, like you said, they thought they were bigger than him.
It's the show where we kill basketball coaches. I think we got rid of Wade Houston and Nolan Richardson. Arkansas
Can't compare those two coaches.
Yeah, Arkansas. Where do you rank that as the best job? Would we agree that Kentucky's the best job anymore?
It's still the best job, probably. But, I don't know if Arkansas is ahead of Alabama. I think Alabama, they invest in the program, and there's a better appreciation for just going to the Final Four with what Nate Oates does. So,
what about Texas?
Texas fired Rick Barnes. Their most successful coach. The expectations are too high at Texas.
Well, they are, but they seem to have been dulled down as they tend to do with some average play. I like the Texas thing because I think you can kind of hide behind the football program too, but you're well funded, so you don't have an issue. I tell you, you don't have to be well funded to take advantage of these fantastic clothes that I have on. Check that out. They are absolutely phenomenal by Apex Apparel Group Design. Call my buddy Tyler. Tyler will give you 15% off if you just mention your first order. It's for your business. It's for spirit wear, promo wear. It's for all of that. Just call Tyler, 865-919-3001, 865-919-3001, or go to yourapexapparel.com, yourapexapparel.com. Apex Apparel. Call, get 15% off. Do me that favor. And if you support our sponsors, they support us, and they're why we're here. So we greatly appreciate them. All right, so coming up, who would Kentucky target? You're going to get everybody riled up. And I know this is how Caleb likes to roll. But should they call a guy whose name rhymes with Tick Carnes? Yes, they should. They absolutely should. Caleb Calhoun, Dave Hooker, while Rick Barnes should be Kentucky's number one target, and it shouldn't be close. 2 minutes off the Hook Sports.
Ford Mustang 5.0 GT, 33,540. 2021 GMC Sierra 1500 Denali 4x4, 46,980. 2022 Ford Expedition King Ranch 4x4, 67,550. Ray Varner Ford, your East Tennessee Ford dealership.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Have you seen the latest TriStar Hats Co. product?
TriStar Hats Co.? What's that?
You know, those really cool hats, shirts, tumblers, and even license plates with 3 stars like the official Tennessee flag and stripes like the American flag. Pretty patriotic if you ask me.
Ah, gotcha. Seen those. Those are cool. Where can I get them?
Simple. TriStarHatsCo.com. And if you order now, there's 10% on any order $50 or more. Plus, use the promo code HOOKED.
With the promo code HOOKED, you get 10% off. That's hooked.
And don't forget free shipping with any order over $50. Stock up at TriStarHatsCo.com. That's TriStarHatsCo.com. There are plenty of wannabes out there, so make sure you go to TriStarHatsCo.com for the best quality and customer service.
Will do, and I'll be sure to use the promo code HOOKED. That's hooked when I do, to save an additional 10% off. TriStarHatsCo.com.
TriStar Hats Co. is a trademark of TriStar Hats Co. LLC. Any use without express written consent is prohibited.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
his vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Newbert Collision Center.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks and Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
Who's this guy?
Hello, wizard.
The Dave Hooker Show,
Who?
a presentation of Off the Hook Sports,
What?
YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
Welcome back. We like to be an open community. We like to grow our listenership with a group of people that we like. That's why our sponsors are only ones that we would do business with or have in the past. If we need their services, they're our call. So I tell you that, knowing that there's deep love for you, because Caleb Calhoun is fighting a stomach flu. And I've been through a little bit of a family emergency, but we're still here for you and we love you. So Caleb, during the break, I could see your camera and I realized that you're now very ill. I wasn't going to at all doubt that. But if I doubted it at all at this point, then it is not doubted, because that was very uncomfortable viewing during the break there. Fortunately, people could not see it. Let's change gears.
Wow, Dave calling me out all over the place.
Yeah, something's all over the place. It's called your breakfast. Kentucky should call Rick Barnes. Yay, nay?
Nay. I'm going to fight you on it. Yay, nay. Now, will they? Well, okay.
I mean, seriously, I haven't used this one in a while, but Tracy Morgan.
That's crazy.
I mean,
Hey now.
that was a great call by me. You get a guy who is, I'm not saying it's good for Tennessee, but you're in a position where you can go make a really good hire. You've proven you'll go get the top transfer portal in the class. You've proven that you can make an Elite Eight. You could go make a good hire. If Rick Barnes walked away, it wouldn't be the end of the world. If I'm Kentucky, I'm calling somebody that's familiar with the SEC, that is the exact opposite of John Calipari, and I can't think of anybody that is more different than John Calipari. I think it would be a very, very smart hire by Kentucky.
Here's the thing with Rick Barnes. Rick Barnes' coaching style, though, Dave. So, like, a school like Kentucky, like, you take a great coach, you say, oh, they go to Kentucky where they can get all the talent, and then they can go win a national title. The flaw in that with a coach like Rick Barnes is his style is kind of immune to the prestige of the school that he's at, if that makes sense. Because Rick Barnes' style is not conducive to be better with better recruits. It's better with experience and developing players, because Rick Barnes is all about a philosophy and developing the talent. That's why when he was at Texas, he consistently, actually, and at Tennessee too, a couple of times, he would have returning talent everywhere and then plug a 5-star in somewhere and would actually regress from the previous year because his system wouldn't mesh with the 5-star. That Kentucky wants you to get those 5-stars still. Now, you don't have to do what Calipari did, one and done's all over, but they want you to do what maybe Kansas does. And part of that is you've got to work your 5-stars in with your experience. Rick Barnes has never been great about that, and it's not his fault. He has a philosophy, and he's going to make his players abide to that philosophy no matter what, regardless of the star power. And many one and dones don't want to abide by it because they're focused on getting to the NBA, or at the very least, maybe what they can do is held back a little bit in college because Rick Barnes focuses so much on developing them and aspects of their game that won't necessarily make them shine the way they may want to shine going forward.
Two names brought up by Smoky Mountain Red, and I think he's absolutely correct. Kentucky should call Bruce Pearl first. Should call Nate Oates first because they are younger. And I don't want to be an ageist here, but the reason I think Barnes would work so well is because he's so much different from Calipari. Both of those guys are somewhat similar to Calipari. Pearl in that he has NCAA issues, both in that they're kind of smooth cats, to use, hustler, use a name. I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily, but that's not an anti-Calipari, which they may be wanting to get away from. So what does the perfect candidate look like to you for Kentucky? Brought to you by Boundless Moving. who are actually going to move Calipari out of Lexington and straight into Fayetteville? Probably not. But their 2-hour minimum to turnkey operations would certainly take care of John Calipari. They absolutely have you covered, and they could also move Kim Caldwell as well. So just to East Tennessee and a Charlotte location as well. Boundless Moving. That's Boundless Moving again from their 2-hour minimum to turnkey operations. They have you covered. What does the perfect candidate at Kentucky look like? Because you just can't go hire. No offense to Kim Caldwell. You can't go hire a Kim Caldwell at Kentucky. You have to have somebody like a Wright, a Self, that type of panache. Don't you? If you don't, Kentucky fans are not going to be happy from the get.
I mean, why can't you hire a Kim Caldwell at that level? Sometimes you can find those coaches. And I mean, where was Rick Pitino when he was hired at Kentucky? I forget the school. Was it Providence?
Yeah, he was at Providence. That's success. But actually, he and Calipari, now that you say it, were both up and comers.
They were, well, Calipari was a little more established at Memphis because he played in it for a couple of national titles. But yeah, Pitino was Providence. And so I don't think you have to. I'm one of those where I think good coaches can come out of a lot of places. I mean, heck, Georgia's got a dynasty in football right now. They hired a defensive coordinator as their head coach. And
I'll tell you this, Smoky Mountain Red's throwing heat. As slimy as Oates appears, dude knows his X's and O's. Man, he does. I don't know that he's not I don't like him because of the gun thing, and I'll probably never change my stance on that from last year. But Caleb, I'm not sure he's not one of the brightest young basketball coaches, regardless of NBA, NCAA, whatever, in the country.
And guess who found him? You know who found him?
Who found him?
Danny White. When he was
I
at
know.
Buffalo. Danny White knows what he's doing. No, I think Nate Oates. I would probably go for Nate Oates. The problem with Bruce Pearl, because I want to compare them for a minute. Now, back in 2006, I think Kentucky did make a run at Bruce Pearl when Tubby Smith left, when Bruce Pearl was at Tennessee, and Pearl rejected Kentucky because he wanted to stay at Tennessee. Pearl came out and basically said, he straight up said, I'm not leaving Tennessee before Kentucky made an offer, but I think they wanted to make an offer. And I actually believe they would have because they settled on Billy Gillespie. They'd have taken Bruce Pearl if they could have gotten him over Billy Gillespie. And
I have to agree with you. I think that when he said it, it wasn't true. But as the way things played out, it might have been true.
Right. I don't think he didn't say they were making a run at him. I remember he was on PTI. Tubby was gone, and then they were just like, Bruce, what would you do if Kentucky called? And he just straight up said, I wouldn't go. The job's not finished at Tennessee. I don't want to go. I believe him on that. But I'm just going to be honest with you guys. And I believe he would not have left Tennessee for Kentucky if they made an offer. But
I do too. He feels like an underdog type.
He
doesn't
does
want to be the favorite, doesn't he?
But I think he would leave Auburn for Kentucky because I don't think he likes living in Auburn. I'm just going to be honest with you guys. I don't think he likes it down there. And I don't blame him because I don't like it in Auburn. I don't like Auburn, the town. It's a terrible town. Sorry, Auburn fans. You guys have the worst town in the SEC, you and Mississippi State fans.
Lexington's not grand. As a matter of fact,
it's a little less one-horse town than Auburn.
When you really compare SEC towns, I want to stick on basketball for a second. Okay, so do we know what the thumbnail sketch of the Kentucky coach looks like? Is he a younger guy? Is he an up-and-comer? Is he already proven to some extent? Is it Jay Wright? Do they pull him off TV? That would be a huge, huge win. I tell you the guy I don't want it to be if you're a Tennessee fan. And I said this last week. Kentucky thinks Pitino wants to come back. No joke. I think Pitino does too, Travis. I don't think Kentucky would take him. But that's a whole different story. You hope that Kentucky doesn't call Nate Oates. Because what do you think that Danny White's thinking in the next 3 years when Rick Barnes finally retires? Who's he going to call?
That's a good question. You're right. You're right. That's a great point.
He's just basically sitting down there and at the minor league level, so to speak, waiting to get called up. And he's winning championships at AA.
I want to bring this up real quick because I got a couple other candidates. But also the thing with the reason Bruce Pearl won't happen is because of his age. You're right. Bruce Pearl is younger than Barnes in number and age. He's older than Barnes in terms of health. So I'm just going to say it. So Bruce Pearl would be way too risky, but here's the name to look at, Dave. What if they could get Billy Donovan to come back to college?
Why does that do anything? That doesn't do anything for me. Why does that do anything for you?
Billy Donovan's a 2-time national champion at Florida. He is.
I'm so sorry. I was thinking of Billy Gillespie. Yes.
Oh, yes. No, Billy Donovan.
Yeah, no. Call Billy Donovan now.
Like, open up write him a blank check, right?
Yes.
Like, that would be, would Kentucky hiring Billy Donovan be a bigger home run hire than when Alabama got Nick Saban?
It would be comparable, except for the fact that this is South and that's football. But in the pure news sense of it, it would be very comparable.
Well, what I mean is, when I mean home run, I mean guaranteed success, no matter what. Like, yes. Guaranteed level of success. Do you think Billy Donovan could have Saban level success at Kentucky?
Give me anybody but Saban. Can you give me Dean Smith level? Can you give me?
I'm going Saban. Can Billy Donovan win 6 national championships at Kentucky?
I'm not going to take anybody to win 6 or 7 titles. I'm just not going to do that. By the way, Tennessee baseball in action over the weekend. The Vols dropped the series opener 9-5, but then the bats exploded. You can check out that coverage. Stacy Oliver, that is on offthehooksports.com. Diamond Vols took the next 2 contests and they went them on runouts. Is that what they call them? Run ruling. The Tigers both days 12-2 and 19-5. Cool for junior Blake Burke hit his 41st career home run as the Vols. That was a solo shot that broke Luke Lipsius' record of 40. And Christian Moore's grand slam on Saturday was the 8th by the Vols this season, surpassing the record of 7 hit by the 98 team. Have you ever hit a grand slam, Caleb?
I have never hit a grand slam. When I played baseball, I was a contact hitter, and that was it. But I would like to point out they run ruled Auburn twice because they just wanted to get out of that town as fast as possible. They're like, let's run rule them so we can just get out of here. This place sucks.
Nobody tees up Caleb for good jokes. Homebound, the Vols hit 14 home runs in the series. 19 runs scored on Sunday were their highest in conference play. Pitching ruled the weekend as well. A.J. Cossey suffered another Friday night loss. Drew Beam pitched his second complete game of the season on Saturday. Nate Snead's strong Sunday outing earned him a team-leading 6 win. So they'll return to Lindsey Nelson for a 4-game homestand. And next up is a Tuesday midweek matchup with Alabama A&M. So who do they have for the homestand this weekend?
They got LSU this weekend. That's right. Tennessee, the 2 LSU is basically, and I'm just going to say it, Tennessee fans are going to, their heads will explode. But guys, right now, Tennessee is the most successful athletics program in the SEC based on Director's Cup since Danny White's taken over. But LSU is what Tennessee wants to be because LSU is actually bringing home hardware and Tennessee is not.
Yep. I got no argument with that. All right. So Tennessee's tight ends hit the media rounds as they visit with the media over the weekend. Tennessee with full pads practice. And this Tennessee tight ends group, we haven't talked much about, but I think they may actually be better than what I first anticipated. We'll discuss that in 2 minutes with Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. This is a presentation of Off the Hook Sports.
In its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that. If we wouldn't put our family in it, we're not going to put their family in it. If you're going to say that you're doing the best work in Knoxville, now saying it's one thing, producing it and providing it's another.
The largest family-owned collision center in Knoxville is Joe Newbert Collision Center.
Hi, I'm Rick Terry, and we at Rick Terry Jewelry Designs pride ourselves in the highest quality craftsmanship from a family-owned business here in Knoxville for over 35 years. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we also take pride in being an affordable option for all your game day accessories, especially those fire opals. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we want to be your jeweler every day and especially on game day. Go Vols!
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
There's your man.
Welcome to Varner Ford in Clinton, where every turn meets new possibilities and every mile celebrates cutting-edge innovation. Elevate your journey with our pre-owned selection of quality vehicles. 2021 Ford Mustang 5.0 GT, 33,540. 2021 GMC Sierra 1500 Denali 4x4, 46,980. 2022 Ford Expedition King Ranch 4x4, 67,550. Local you trust, pre-owned vehicles you can afford. Varner Ford, your East Tennessee Ford dealership.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
You're listening to The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of OffTheHookSports.com.
The internet is full of pictures of each and every one of you.
Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free.
Is there nothing you people can't do?
Also available on OffTheHookSports.com.
To Caleb in the message board, would you rather hit a grand slam or dunk on a 10-foot goal in a high school game? You can hit a grand slam, dunk on a 10-foot goal.
A grand slam.
Grand slam is not a game winner, by the way. It's not a walk-off.
Who cares? What's more valuable? I'm still all about winning. What has a bigger impact on you trying to win a game? One dunk or 4 runs?
What if it's already 15-0? I want to dunk on one, just one time. Pretty cool.
A dunk is worth as many points as a layup.
That's true. Me and my buddy used to argue this because I'd say the same thing about the 3-pointer, and he'd say, well, no, it fires your team up. What about that argument?
The 3, well, okay. The dunk does fire your team up. Are you talking about like getting a technical, basically, too? I could just get a technical for that to fire my team up.
That's true. All right.
Remember, what was it? Happy Gilmore, when he's like, I still hold 2 league records, most times in a penalty box, and I was the only guy to ever take my skate off and try to stab somebody.
This is right. They're doing Happy Gilmore too. Thumbs up, thumbs down.
Thumbs down. I don't like these sequels to these comedies.
Either. And it's just too far removed too.
But Shooter McGavin, that's the greatest choke job in movie sports history, isn't it?
Shooter's such a loser. All right, a guy that's not a loser is Josh Heupel. That's why he decided to elevate Alec Ablin, who is also not a loser. Alec Ablin was kind of strong over the weekend. He's talking about Holden Stays from Notre Dame, and Miles Kitselman from Alabama says, quote, I don't want to crown them too early, but they're doing a really good job. Well, I will go ahead and tell you, in the school of coaching and visiting with the media, they say never start a sentence with, I don't want to crown them too early, because it means you're crowning them too early. It's the 3rd week of spring, Alec. Maybe this is a reminder that you haven't been coaching that long. However, I will say this. Tennessee has to replace 474 yards, 38 catches, and 9 touchdowns from last year's squad in McAllen Castles and Jacob Warren. I think this is a very, very good sign that Ablin likes Stays and likes Kitselman off the get, because we haven't talked much about this position, but it could swing either way, Caleb. It could be a real X factor.
Yeah, and I still don't know where they're going to go, because Kitselman and Stays they each fill a different type of void for tight ends. So the way Josh Heupel likes his tight ends, he wants the physical blocking type of tight end that you can run the ball a lot with, that could be a red zone threat, and then he wants the athlete at tight end. And that, I mean, McAllen Castles was more athlete in open space. Jacob Warren was the more blocking tight end. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Yeah, and so I think with these transfers, Holden Stays as the more athletic tight end, and Kitselman is the more blocking tight end. Now, the question, though, is where does... I wouldn't be surprised with Kitselman taking over in the blocking tight end role. But if Holden Stays is standing out in the athletic tight end role, Well, there's competition for that because Emmanuel Okoye and Ethan Davis are right there behind them. And Ethan Davis, I thought, was going to be the ultimate playmaker at tight end going forward.
Here's where I stand on Okoye. I've got to see another year. I think they switched him from defense to offense. And so I got to see 2 years of just playing tight end. So I'm not even making any sort of judgment on him until 2025. That's just where I stand. He could prove me wrong. Good luck to him. Ethan Davis, I think, has a factor. It can be a factor this upcoming season. Now, Josh Heupel has to change some things that he's done previously at Tennessee. What's he done for the previous 2 years? I mean, by the book, it has been one tight end, one tight end out, one tight end, one tight end out. And he's played a lot of one tight end sets, and that's what they've run primarily. So the one tight end is going full board. He's a bigger guy, can't hang with the receivers. So they put another tight end in there to be fresh. Would you go to a 3 tight end rotation? Would you make Kitzelman your 3rd tight end since he's a blocking guy? Those are things that you might consider to have Ethan Davis be a bigger factor. But I don't want to sell Ethan Davis short at all, because you did have Alec Eberle go on to say that he was very high on Davis, saying, quote, "This spring he's done a great job getting his body right. I think he was 242 pounds last week, and he's so comfortable now with where to be and what to do." So you're right. You don't want to Milton the kid, and that is play the guy above him on the depth chart more than you should so that he doesn't see his development, which is what happened to Nico last year. Don't Milton the kid.
There goes Dave. Just was like, how can I work in a shot at Joe Milton? And there he did it.
Was that my best one?
Unfair shot. Unfair shot. You know, Dave, Joe Milton wasn't a bad guy. This isn't like some people that I think it's, yeah, some people. Like, for instance, if you want to take shots at Arian Foster, go right ahead, because Arian Foster deserves it.
You show up with a Duke at practice and bowl practice. That's not I got a problem. You don't show up with the NFL ball at spring practice. Sorry, half stripe it, kid. You got a little
whatever. Here we go. Here goes Dave.
That would gripe my rear till he and I would either be fighting or I would have to leave. I don't know why, but I heard that, and I really haven't expressed to you how much that really bothers me, but it really bothers me.
Yeah, I'm gathering that. Okay, so to the point
Where you go? It's the NFL football. I'm going to get drafted in April. Y'all care if I throw with you? How's spring camp going? Or no, sorry, how was bowl practice going?
You're ridiculous. To your question of do they do 3 tight ends? No, because that's against Josh Heupel's philosophy. He likes a set rotation and he likes to go with it. And I think part of that is, Dave, when you run tempo, it's almost like basketball, but it's football, which is its rhythm is a big thing. And I think you want to be in rhythm. And so I think that's why he likes to shorten the rotation and just keep the kids in shape. And so I think he's going to
I don't argue with that, but I think the question is Kitzelman your 3rd tight end, essentially? Is he a blocking tight end in short yardage? Is Ethan Davis
he's your 2nd tight end.
No, I'm asking you, is there a possibility before the end of the year that Kitzelman could be your 3rd blocking tight end because Ethan Davis is so good you can't keep him on the bench? Or is there a possibility that Josh Heupel would extend that rotation to 3 people in order to get Ethan Davis? That's my query.
If Ethan Davis is that good, then Holden Staes is going to be on the bench. I mean, that's just how that's going to work out. Either Ethan Davis or Holden Staes is going to play. The other one's going to be on the bench. By the way, I think that's fine. Tennessee I think a lot of times we as analysts and many fans too expect if a player is taken in the transfer portal that they're expected to immediately start and make an impact. I think a lot of times players are taken, Dave, just so coaches have options if one doesn't work out.
Okay, but let me play devil's advocate with you. If Jacob Warren was the blocking tight end and the other guy, whether it's Castles or Fant, was the receiving tight end, don't other teams know that, especially when you only play one tight end at a time? I mean, you would be better off with Staes and Davis that could do both than one blocking tight end. I mean, in the perfect world.
I don't think you're catching defenses off guard with the tight ends. People know the offense Josh Heupel runs. I think it's more for to give one a rest and to give each tight end a rest.
Maybe I'm dancing around the point. I'm gonna go ahead and say it. If Ethan Davis is not playing 30 to 40% of the snaps at tight end by game 5, this coaching staff's made a personnel decision.
No, I will agree with you on that. Oh, personnel mistake. I'll agree with you on that. But I don't think the use of the personnel is to catch teams off guard. I think it's for them specifically. I think that's the way this offense is oriented.
No, I agree. But like when Jacob comes in the game and I'm the defense, and I know that they alternate which they do every series, am I not more likely to think of him as a little bit more apt to stay in and run block or pass block than go out? I mean, I think it affects your tendencies. It has to.
Maybe, but it hasn't shown itself to do that yet. I mean, to give you a quick rundown, I mean, the most gutsy alternating of personnel in the history of the game was Steve Spurrier alternating quarterbacks to beat Florida State in '97, and he did it every play. And
but I am talking specifically about. I mean, you wouldn't argue that it would be best to have 2 Jason Wittens out there as opposed to a David Martin and an Eric Diagu. David Martin's probably the better receiving tight end as a raw athlete than Jason Witten was. Okay. Eric Diagu is probably a better blocking tight end. But I'd rather have 2 guys that are good at one guy or 2 guys that are good at both.
Yeah, but Dave, you're talking about Jason Witten.
I understand.
Jason Witten's the only guy I knew. He could have lined up at left tackle if he wanted to and been a Hall of Fame left tackle, I feel like, if he put on some weight. And because he was that good of a blocker. And he also could have lost some weight and lined up at wide receiver, because he was fast. I mean, he is the most, I say this all the time and people call me crazy, but I think there's an argument for him as the best NFL tight end of all time, just because he actually did what a tight end is supposed to do, which is he was a reliable blocker. And what other receiving tight end was that great of a blocker in NFL history?
That's crazy. It's not that crazy. I like it. If you want to get on board with the Cowboy, I'm down with you. Roto 22. You don't have to unscribe with all the Milton bashing. I'm not bashing Milton. I hope for one that he makes $1 gajillion. I do.
So let's ask you, Dave, because I want to know your question, because the message board is doing it. Jared Garantano or Joe Milton? Who are you taking?
I was actually going to toss that back to you. It's so tough for me because of how affected quarterbacks are specifically by coaches. You could be the greatest quarterback in the world, and if I'm a terrible coach, you're just really up the creek.
I'm with you. That's why I'm considering Garantano, because look at what he was stuck to labor under.
And I don't feel good about it. I don't feel strong in either decision I would make. Do you?
No, I don't. But Joe Milton had the most. The knock on Milton, I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to side with you on this, Dave. Joe Milton had the most quarterback-friendly offense in the history of college football behind him. And
true. Now, I want to give Joe Milton credit for one thing, and that was his strong arm, and I know everybody does. But let's don't forget that he had an answer. When his accuracy failed him over the middle, and they got a little bit afraid to throw it over the middle, he had the strong arm to be able to pull off the long screen passes, and that's what kept Tennessee's offense moving. I know everybody hated it.
He was a mean screen, man.
I know everybody hated it, but man, it did get out there quick, and I'm being dead serious. That's the sign of a college athlete, one that has a change up where things don't go his way, and then he can still, or she, and he can still do a strong job. So I'm giving.
This is reminding me of when people talk about certain basketball players that they like who aren't that good, and they'll say, man, he's great at setting a pick. He sets a mean pick. Have you seen the way he sets that pick, Dave?
And now Travis is unsubscribing too. It's all falling apart. I apologize for that. This day in Tennessee sports history is coming right around the corner, as Caleb's done a great job with those. We certainly appreciate it. City Heating and Air Conditioning, 50 years in East Tennessee. Integrity matters. Don't trust a fly-by-night HVAC company to tell you that you need a new unit when, I tell you what, could just be a part, or could just be some coolant that could save you thousands. How about that? cityheatandair.com. cityheatandair.com. Don't forget to support all of our sponsors. That is why we're here, and we certainly appreciate them. So this day in Tennessee football history coming up here momentarily. How many freshmen will make an impact this year for the Vols? We talked about Ethan Davis briefly. I think he is one. And then I guess, are we going to refer to redshirt freshmen would be the question as well. Are those going to be on our freshmen, for instance?
I don't know how we're doing it, because aren't you allowed like 5 years now anyway in eligibility? So I'm just like, I'm super confused on how they're doing freshmen and sophomores now. I got to be honest, aren't you?
Yeah, let's just call them underclassmen. If we start writing that, will that just take off?
Underclassmen?
Yeah.
I mean, so yeah, maybe freshmen and sophomores are underclassmen. There we go.
Yeah. From now on. Smoky Mountain Red said he had the most coaching movement other than any quarterback in Tennessee history, from head coach, OC, and quarterback coach. Who knows? But that in no way could have helped him. That's true for Jared Garantano. I just have trouble even comparing the two, Milton and Garantano. I think they both have individual strengths. I think Garantano was a better runner, a little bit more fluid. I think Joe Milton has a better skill set all around. But there you go. They both did. Yeah, Travis says I'm not leaving. Thank you. I was worried. This day in Tennessee sports history. What do you got for me, Caleb?
Well, it's fitting because we led with the Lady Vols making their new coaching hire, and 16 years ago today, the Lady Vols won what would be their final national championship under Pat Summitt. They beat Stanford. They won 64-48, and the real standout game was right before that, where they beat LSU 47-46 off a last-second shot in a really grinded-out type of game. And then they go and beat Stanford to win the national title. Candace Parker was the tournament's most outstanding player. Definitely what stood out to me with that one, and this is where people get the Candace Parker-Shamika Holdsclaw debate, because Shamika Holdsclaw won more and was more dominant. But I think the difference is, if you watch the Lady Vol team in 2008, Candace Parker really carried that team by herself. There were solid role players, but it was just Candace Parker.
Yeah, that's a question.
Yeah.
Would you take you are head coach Caleb Calhoun. You've decided to pursue a career in the college women's basketball coaching biz, which is a tough gig to get. You got Candace Parker and you got Caitlin Clark sitting there. Who are you taking?
Not even a question. It's Candace Parker.
Okay, thank you.
Not even a question.
I was driving into work this morning thinking, am I the only one that is missing this? I mean, she is Caitlin Clark. I watched her. I got sucked in. She's not top 20 of women's basketball players I've ever seen. Now, I will tell people this that got sucked in. That Iowa up and down stuff, that's what the new Lady Vols coach is going to want to run, just to give you an idea. Go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you're right. It's funny you say that about Caitlin Clark, because the discourse surrounding her is everything that sucks about sports discourse. By the way, this is why our show is good. And no, I'm dead serious on this. This is why our show is good. This is why YouTube shows are better than cable news shows, because here's I'm going to break this down for you, Dave.
Well, ours.
Yes, ours specifically.
Yes.
I've said all year, people who are not noticing Caitlin Clark, she can shoot, but if you provide help defense and stay on her, she has a turnover problem. She was averaging 5 turnovers a game, and she's very mediocre defensively. Those things were true all year. Now, Iowa loses to South Carolina yesterday. Neither one of those things are why they lost, by the way. They lost because they just don't have any inside game. They can't rebound. But all of a sudden, the narrative turns against Caitlin Clark, not because of the things I brought up, but because her team lost a game.
Oh, no, she didn't do it. I mean, what was she supposed to do? Start posting people up?
Like, exactly.
I love the fact that the women's game's getting some love. But it ain't Caitlin Clark. She is the reason, but she shouldn't be the reason. Here's the list of the WNBA's greatest players of all time. And just real quickly, I'm going to run through this. You tell me which one Clark's better than. Taurasi Caitlin.
Taurasi Caitlin?
Yes.
Oh, Diana Taurasi. Taurasi.
Catchings Caitlin.
Tamika Catchings. The only now she did only win one national title in college, but she had so many injury issues when she was at Tennessee. when she was there.
Okay.
But yeah.
In all fairness, I'm going by a WNBA list because I thought that'd be a little bit easier. Cynthia Cooper.
I'm gonna go with Caitlin Clark. Cynthia Cooper. Yeah, absolutely.
Ooh, 4 championships, 2-time MVP. Okay. Maya Moore.
Oh gosh, the greatest guard in the history of the WNBA. Lisa Leslie.
Cheryl Swoops. Lauren Jackson. I don't know who this is.
I don't know who Lauren Jackson is.
I don't either. Sue Bird.
Sue Bird, obviously, is better than.
I can keep going. Candace Parker.
The greatest post player in the history of women's basketball.
Ella Deladon.
Wait, I can name my. Wait, here's the real question as you're going down the list. And Dave, we asked Ron Slay this question. Brianna Stewart would run circles around Caitlin Clark. Now, again, here's my point. I debated this with Ron. Ron, I may disagree with Ron on this because I asked Ron if Caitlin Clark could start on the all-time Lady Vols team. Now, he certainly could. She certainly couldn't start on the all-time UConn team because UConn is loaded with guards. I think she would work her way into the all-time Lady Vols roster because I'm looking at it, and you know this, Dave. The Lady Vol legends are all post players. You know, Bridget Gordon.
She could work her way into the lineup, but
as a guard, because
would she just be a spot-up shooter?
Yeah, I mean, but the only reason she would work her way in is because honestly, Tennessee, and I'm going to get so much flack for this between people who love Kara Lawson, but Tennessee has never been great on the guard play. The Lady Vols, they've always been about
Kara
post players.
Lawson a better player than Caitlin Clark?
No, Kara Lawson's not better. And also the only one, because if you did an all-time Lady Vols team, the starting point guard would probably be Holly Warlick, but Caitlin Clark's better than Holly Warlick.
But then you'd have to fire her at halftime, and you replace her with Kelly Harper, and you have to fire her after the third quarter.
Oh my gosh!
Seconds. Get down and see our friends at Dynasty Pools and Spas. They want to take care of you. And I'm telling you, you got to get in there. Check out the spa. They deliver it to you with all the parts you need. They also have the best chemicals, no fillers. It is awesome for your pool and spa. Dynasty Pools and Spas. Get down there. Support our sponsors. That's why we're here. Here, you know, the best thing about Dynasty Pools and Spas is that they've got it all taken care of. What does that mean? Well, you stop by their showroom and check out their fantastic selection of top-notch spas in that showroom in Athens. Make your pick and get ready because Dynasty Pools and Spas delivers within 125 miles of that location in Athens, that fantastic showroom. They've got the cover lift, steps, chemicals, and everything you need. Delivery at no extra charge. They're just down the road in Athens. You pick the spa you want, and it'll be there for you. Oftentimes discounted with military and first responders discounts. Also blemish models, or just mention Off the Hook Sports. That's Off the Hook Sports for $500 off. There's a discount for you on spas made right here in East Tennessee. Support local. Dynasty Pools and Spas also has the best chemicals for you and your spa and your pool. No fillers, just the chemicals made right here in East Tennessee. Support local. Dynasty Pools and Spas, $500 off if you mention Off the Hook Sports. $500 off if you mention Off the Hook Sports. Dynasty Pools and Spas, dynastypoolsandspas.com. Oh, I love this comparison. Mead Drinker says Clark is a female version of Reggie Miller. She is. The way she runs and comes off screens and can shoot, obviously. Reggie Miller is one of the 3 greatest shooters of my lifetime. Yeah, that's it. And that's
exactly it.
And those do not compare with Candace Parker. Sorry.
No. And as a matter of fact, what was Reggie Miller's biggest problem? If you had a good enough defense to come up to be able to get around the screen and provide help or provide help in time, he might hit the shot, but he also might turn the ball over. And that was a big problem with Reggie Miller his whole career. And so, I think that again, we're downing her, and I want to be fair. Caitlin Clark, she deserved Women's Player of the Year this year. She was the best player in women's basketball this year, and I do believe that. But I mean, when people were crowning greatest of all time, and I'm thinking, what? I mean, I'd watch. There were legit issues in her game. This isn't biased to old school styles of basketball. She turns the ball over too much when she's coming off screens. If you stay on her, And she's not great defensively. Yes, she's no Candace Parker. And I mean, honestly, the other one, South Carolina, Aja Wilson, who played for South Carolina a few years ago, she's not better than Aja Wilson. I mean, the women's game, the post players are just incredible. And yeah, Candace Parker is, again, I don't know, you know, people kept talking about, oh, Caitlin Clark couldn't lift her team to a championship by herself. And I'm like, look, Candace Parker did kind of lift that 08 Lady Vols team to a title by herself.
Yeah.
Nobody else on that team was great.
I gotta be honest with you. I'm kind of Caitlin Clarked out. Rick Terry Jewelry Design. They want to be your jeweler looking for affordable game day jewelry. How about the Fire Opals? A Tennessee tradition. RickTerryJewelry.com. RickTerryJewelry.com. And here's why I'm Caitlin Clarked out. I feel like people from Connecticut, people from East Tennessee, and certain other pockets that really appreciate women's basketball shouldn't have to be told repeatedly, well, this women's basketball thing, it's making a movement. It has the best storylines of any Final Four out there, even better than the men's. I mean, come on. It was a pretty big deal anyway. The South Carolina going undefeated would have been a big, big story had it not been for Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark has kind of become the mascot of women's basketball, not the superstar who's going to raise it to good heights. I'm good with Caitlin Clark moving on to the WNBA, which I typically see about 2.5 minutes of a year.
Well, I think the way a lot of Tennessee and UConn fans feel right now and the way some older players, and you saw a lot of UConn resentment to her over the weekend, which by the way is an issue on its own because UConn players don't even realize that like they may not like the promotion of Caitlin Clark, and they ignore the fact that the whole reason UConn became a program was the extra promotion people who went to UConn got because they're right next to ESPN. I mean, how do you get like how many former UConn players get hired at ESPN, Dave? It's like they're all over the place. And so it was hypocritical for them to say that. But I think we're a lot of the fans from former UConn players and former Tennessee players and players back in the 80s. It reminds me of Wilt Chamberlain and the way he felt about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Michael Jordan. And Wilt never, ever respected them. And he resented the level of popularity they got. I don't know if you know, Wilt Chamberlain hated Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And he just thought that, you know, it was kind of a jealousy of he was doing this level of work when the NBA wasn't popular and helping to promote it. But so I try to be fair here. Like, I understand the resentment of the former players that people like Caitlin Clark are benefiting from it when she's not even among the best.
A lot of former players just resent it because you're making more money, whether it be professional money or NIL money, right? Done a lot of
that's exactly why a lot of former players resent it.
I had a second job in my day, and I'm old enough where guys literally did have to work a second job.
Yeah, I mean that's why, you know, I will never forget, and this is when I stopped liking Drew Brees. Funny enough, was when Drew Brees came out and said that the players.
I never liked him.
You never liked him?
I'm kidding. Why would you not like Drew? Why do you not like Drew Brees? He seems like a weird guy to dislike.
Because during the concussion lawsuit against the NFL, he came out and said that these older players knew what they signed up for and they just want to check. And I'm like, Drew, he said that as he was holding out for $100 million contract. And I'm like, really, Drew? Like, you're holding out for $100 million contract that's made possible because of the work that these former players in the 70s did. And they were lied to about the safety of what they were doing at the time. And they had to do a lot of them did have to work a second job when they were playing football. So I just thought it was really low class of Drew Brees to go with former players that do in the NFL.
Now take a look at this thing because I think I got it right. So you, by the way, need to be sure and check out before I tell you who's winning in our celebrity bracket challenge, which it's huge this year. This is the first year, but it's never been bigger. And want to be sure and let you know that you can win some TriStar hats memorabilia winning our bracket celebrity challenge. We will include some TriStar hats, apparel. Also, we will have the Fire Opal earrings from Rick Terry Jewelry Design. That should be awesome. The good news is that we have a great prize pack. The bad news is that it appears as if David Leverton is going to win all of that because, unless I'm wrong, help me with this, David Leverton, punter for the 1998 National Championship team, among others, is currently sitting at first place. Caleb, so does that look right to you?
Yes, David Leverton is first, and I see Jimmy Hyams is second.
Okay, so he has UConn winning. Jimmy Hyams is second with UConn winning. So as I scroll down, Tommy Hart has a max of 139. So it appears as if Purdue, if they win tonight, he can beat Leverton and Jimmy Hyams in our Celebrity Challenge. What do you think of Tommy Hart's chances?
So if Purdue wins tonight, you're saying, oh, I see.
Yeah, see, so you're already out. You're way
yeah.
out.
You don't have to remind me,
did
Dave.
Absolutely horrible. I've never seen anybody pick a bracket as poorly as you.
It's hilarious that I'm fourth when my national title pick was knocked out in the Sweet 16, and I'm still fourth. That shows I've been pretty impressive elsewhere.
Sure,
but Dave, what's standing out to me is if Purdue wins, you know what that means?
Tommy Hart wins our Celebrity Challenge.
It means something else too, and I think this is total randomness, but 2 number 1 seeds have lost to number 16 seeds in the history of the NCAA tournament. If Purdue wins tonight, both of them will have gone on to win the national title the next year.
You just can't get that stuff elsewhere. That's golden. All right.
Yeah, because Virginia did it in 2019, and now Purdue's could do it now. So it's kind of intriguing, just kind of a interesting stat. Another area where sports discourse is just stupid is that I'm sorry, it is. I hate to say it, but it just drives me crazy. You know, Tony Bennett with Virginia, and you're talking now with Matt Painter at Purdue. I've heard people trash Mark Few by saying he's not a good tournament coach because he doesn't have a national title at Gonzaga.
It's crazy.
I'll take Mark Few tomorrow over Tony Bennett or Matt Painter, and I'm not going to let one tournament run change my mind.
Absolutely. I'm with you there. You can be a part of Hooker's Corner. You can win great weekly prizes and also our monthly grand prize, thanks to our friends at Sports Treasures, carrying over 5 million sports treasures and so much more. Follow on Facebook for the best sports memorabilia, daily updates. Go to Sports Treasures TN. That's Sports Treasures TN. Sports Treasures carrying over 5 million sports treasures. Now you can sign up and be a free member, and you'll get our updates throughout the week, or you can pay just $9.98 and support the program. We greatly appreciate it, and we'll make sure you win great prizes as well. Some prizes going out, and we're adding TriStar hats, memorabilia, and apparel to that as well. So a lot going on. For Caleb Calhoun, I'm Dave Hooker. This has been a presentation of Off the Hook Sports. So who you got in the UConn-Purdue game?
I've actually got Purdue. I had Purdue. I would have picked Purdue winning it all if I didn't know if I didn't think the Final Four was in Arizona, or the Final Four wasn't in Arizona. And of course, Arizona couldn't get to the Final Four, so it didn't matter.
I can't help but root for Edey. The guy's got something wrong with him, but he just keeps scoring and rebounding. So I like him. For Caleb
Dave's going to be. Did you see that picture of Zach Edey like bringing the girl into his room, and then all the other girls were watching from the outside? And,
no, but I'm telling you right now, it's the renaissance of the big men. It's going to happen in the NBA. He's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave